Which coaches needed a little bit of help, Caleb? All right, let's get this thing started. Who you got on our Coaching IQ segment? Last Look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look at me. No contacts, no glasses because of Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn and LASIK surgery. Caleb, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to start out by saying because quite a few teams were on a bye this week, the excessive level of stupidity wasn't on display, so you kind of had to watch the game and the flow of the game to see coaches make basic mistakes. So I'm going to give them credit. There weren't like Butch Jones levels of clock mismanagement or Les Miles levels in this week, but there were still some good ones. And we're going to start with a former almost Tennessee football coach in Greg Schiano, where Rutgers lost to UCLA over the weekend. There was a play, and it was 3rd and 9, and Greg Schiano calls a draw to bring up 4th and 2 at the UCLA 46-yard line. And
you got to go for it.
He takes a delay of game and punts it.
Like, that is total bullshit.
Your thoughts, John?
Greg Schiano. Yeah, I wonder how many Tennessee fans watch Rutgers games just hoping to see him lose.
Well, I can tell you my son who goes to UMass was quite cognizant of the fact that Butch Jones and Arkansas State were playing the Minutemen, and he found it quite comical. Caleb, who's next?
All right. Well, next, another one. You guys can... I'm coming down on going for it on 4th down, but I think you guys are on my side on these this week because it's situational football. Jim Mora, who had a spat with Josh Heupel in Tennessee last year after Tennessee beat UConn. UConn was playing Wake Forest and down by 2 scores with 9 minutes left in the 4th quarter. And on 4th and 1 near the 40-yard line, now it was their own 40-yard line, but remember you're down 2 scores and it's 4th and 1, and he punts it.
That's crazy.
John?
Crazy like a fox. He obviously was betting on the game.
Right. What the H happened to Jim Mora's career, by the way? I mean, didn't it seem like he was cruising along as kind of like the McVay of his era, and then now he's stuck at UConn?
Who thought the West Coast offense was going to work on Michael Vick? I mean, how did people think that was a good match?
But did you think Jim Mora would be a solid coach, John?
Yeah, I did. And I actually think he's done pretty well where he is. UCLA is a graveyard for coaches. That was his biggest mistake, was going to UCLA.
John, have I ever shared, speaking of UConn, have I ever shared with you the fact that, we used to connect via Facebook, and so we'd friend people, and that's when I covered the Northeast in recruiting for ESPN. And I friended Randy Edsel, who was the source. I don't mind saying it. He's probably watching because you could always see him watching. He would watch my daily show on Facebook, and it would say Randy Edsel's watching. And I wasn't even talking about UConn nor any school in his area, but he was a daily viewer of the program.
That's kind of sad.
Well, John, even sadder when Randy Edsel's first game at Maryland was that Monday night game against Miami when Maryland displayed those hideous flag uniforms with the flag on it. And I fought a lot of Maryland fans like, this is buzz. This is going to help us recruit. I'm like, yeah, guys, you really think that kids are going to see Randy Edsel? And I'm like, I'm not crazy about the program he's building, but those flag-based jerseys, man, we're going to commit on that.
Who else ain't so bright? Brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
The first step to better vision is to visit ccteyes.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at ccteyes.com.
All right, Caleb, who's up next on Coaching IQ?
Oh, we got our old buddy Mike Norvell. Now, he may not care. He could just be going through the motions because of how bad the season is, but Duke was able to run out the clock against Florida State at the end of that game on Friday last week. The reason they were able to run out the clock was because when Florida State was about to punt on 4th and 2 in the 3rd quarter, Mike Norvell took a timeout to avoid a delay of game. Now, you're punting. Why do you care about the timeout is way more valuable than the 5-yard penalty in that situation. And he took the timeout to avoid. He didn't want it to be 4th and 7. He'd rather be 4th and 2 when he punts, even though he's punting either way.
You suck, you jackass.
I think you hit it right. I think Mike Norvell checked out with the third loss.
What has happened to that team? In all seriousness, I mean, they're in college football playoff contention last year, and you don't really see teams just fall off the map from one year to another.
It's really odd, and particularly because of their history and because they seem to have a good NIL program. When you look what they did in building last year's team, they got some really key players in through the portal, and then it makes you wonder if the NIL deals weren't working out. Because look at all the guys that opted out at the end of last year, and after it didn't make the playoffs, that was a factor in it. And I wondered this year, I mean, how could they be this bad?
Yeah, it's really befuddling. I will offer this up, John, as a possible reason. I think that the middle and lower class of football have gotten better. In other words, if you don't show up to play, Arkansas was a great example. They pick up Danico Slaughter and Addison Nichols to address some issues that they have. And you just don't have as many gimmies. I mean, there were times that Philip Fulmer would leave the practice field to go recruit during Kentucky and Vanderbilt week. I don't know that you have those gimmies like you used to.
You still have a few out there, Kent State, but maybe not as many.
I mean, Power 5. Sorry.
Power 5s. Who's the worst Power 5 team in the country right now? Just off the top of your head, who would you say is the worst?
That's a tough one. I got to think about that for a minute.
I'd go with what's a Rutgers, maybe?
No, it's not Rutgers. There's worse teams in the Big Ten than Rutgers.
Who's the worst team in the ACC?
Florida State, honestly, maybe Wake. Yeah, I mean, Florida State may be the worst team. It might be Florida State. They may be the worst team in Power 5. Well, another 1-6 team I get to go to now that's really, really bad, and it's in the SEC though. For my other football IQ, Hugh Freeze is made the list this week, and Auburn's lost to Missouri. I don't know if you guys watched that game over the weekend, but
I did watch some of that game.
Auburn, on one point in the third quarter, they had the ball on their own 25. They get it all the way to the Missouri 10-yard line, running it 8 of 9 times. All they did was run it to get down there. They run it the whole time to get down there. And then once they're on the 10-yard line and 1st and goal, you know what Hugh Freeze does? I've run it all the way down. Now, why don't I throw it 3 times? They won't be expecting that. And he throws an incompletion.
You idiot.
Yeah, takes a sack. Peyton Thorne takes a sack, and then they get knocked out of field goal range, and they miss the field goal. And then Hugh Freeze in his press conference was like, well, if the receiver just caught the pass on the first play, it would have been a touchdown. Well, why are you throwing it? You ran it all the way down to the 10-yard line. Why did you put the ball in the air? This is like when Butch Jones, John, you remember John Kelly runs it all the way inside the 5-yard line, and then they say, hey, let's throw it 3 times. It was just like that. And I'm thinking, Jesus, Hugh Freeze did Jesus tell you that you need to throw this game? Because I know he's very religious.
By the way, did anybody think that Steve Sarkisian, when he comes out and he's like Moses holding his hands up, did anybody say to themselves in the Texas crowd, oh, I was going to throw this, but Steve Sarkisian holds his hands up, so I'm not?
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, that's Steve thought he had a little more power. He thought he had a little more power than he does.
Yeah, holding his hands up. To me, that made me want to throw something. Like, I would literally, if I'm in the stands, I would say, listen, Jack Wagon, you showed up with a team not ready to play. I'm now going to throw something, and I wasn't before. I mean, isn't that – don't give me that.
I think Caleb has a lot to look forward to dealing with stupid coaches the rest of the year, because I feel like as the deeper we go into the season, the more coaches who will edge closer to the hot seat. And as they edge closer to the hot seat and the pressure builds, they're more apt to do what? Get stupid.
John, and there's more parity because honestly, I've said this for a long time. If you really watch it, NFL coaches make more dumb decisions than college coaches on a weekly basis, but nobody pays attention to regular season NFL games like regular season college games, and the only time it gets magnified for NFL is the playoffs, but then they have the fact that they made the playoffs to fall back on. So I think you're going to start to see a lot more because it's close, and one of those whose parity is costing, and this is my number one. I think he's made my list 4 weeks in a row now, but old Lincoln Riley. How about those Terps winning 29-28? So USC's up 28-22. They're on the Maryland 25-yard line. It's 4th and 1. If they get the first down, they win the game. They can run out the clock. Lincoln Riley decides to try a field goal with the kicker who's been 50% from anything beyond 40 yards on the year. And all they need is a first down to run out the clock. And they miss the field goal, and Maryland goes down and scores and wins the game.
You suck, you jackass.
Just throw him in the Pacific, man.
That's right. All right.